This podcast is sponsored by nobody. Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now, I am so friggin' excited for today's guest because I'll be talking to Hanala Segal. Hanala, she was in Michael Jackson's Thriller. They're celebrating its 40th anniversary. And I am so freaking excited to talk with her today. I am so happy. And oh my God, she's had tiny parts in so many movies I love from the 80s. Stand Alone, Ruthless People, Return of the Living Dead 2. She's also a screenwriter. She's written Elvis and Nixon with her ex-husband Joey Segal, who's also been on the show. She's also a wellness coach, life coach. She's got a marijuana dispensary, from what I was seeing on her website. Cali Sober. She's an addiction specialist. Something called boat karaoke, which I got to ask about because I am a huge karaoke singer, and it's going to be a great conversation today, and I just can't wait. Yeah, I just so freaking lucky with the people that I get to interview on the show. People from all walks of life, Hanala is from Canada, and I love my Canadians, so it's going to be a fantastic conversation today. So yeah, here is my interview with Hanala Segal. So, going back in time, did you gravitate toward acting, writing, and dancing early on in your childhood? What came first?
I think the neglect by my parents. I was just waiting for a stage for someone to pay attention to me because they didn't.
Yeah.
And I always knew that I was good at the entertaining thing. I love to sing and dance. My mother, I have a picture of me at a bar mitzvah in New York because we traveled a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was about 4 years old. And the picture is my mother shoving food in my mouth. And the story is that she had to do that because all I wanted to do was sing and dance and entertain everyone. And of course, the food was free. So damn it, she was going to make me eat. And so that kind of set the, of course, then later when I weighed 160 pounds, she wished she hadn't done that.
Yeah, so that was the beginning of it all.
Yeah, the addiction. I'm 40 years sober. What? Yeah, and the trying to get attention. I love being on stage. I feel like that's a really most comfortable place for me because I know my job. Now I am doing this because of that. Normally, you go to the grocery store, I'm lost. There are too many decisions. I mean, oatmeal alone. It used to be you went one time and you picked up the Quaker Oats, the guy with the thing, and you went home. Now they have 72 varieties of oatmeal. And it's like I just want to cry. Sometimes I've gone home without it. Just I can't commit.
Yeah. So did you get involved in school plays and community theater and all of that?
Jewish theater first. I remember being in a play when I was a little girl where I was cast as the girl who lost her parents in the Holocaust and was in the forest trying to find them. And as a child of Holocaust survivors, it wasn't a stretch for me, and also that abandonment that I talked about before. So I was at the beginning of the play. I remember this little girl. Then I sat at the side of the stage during the whole play while you watched my parents, but I don't know where they are. And then at the end of the play, I turn around and I see my parents, and we run into each other's arms. And I remember just crying my heart out. I wasn't acting. It was just like, oh, you found me. I found you. Oh my God. And we have each other. Yay. Let's go home and fight, because the fight always continues. And so I remember that powerful experience. And I thought, and of course the audience was applauding and crying, and I thought, I want to make people clap and feel anything. Mostly I want to make them laugh, not cry.
Yeah, of course. Are you trained in all types of dance?
Well, I sucked at tap, although I like to pretend to tap. I can do that. But mostly I turned it into a career. When I got sober in 1983, there was this thing going on called aerobic dance, floorboard, that kind of thing. So I like, okay, I will get paid to do. So I became an aerobics instructor, and you can see where that was leading to. I created a show called Shape Up LA, and it was fitness for mind and body. My name back then was Susan Stadner. I went back to Hanala because that's my Yiddish name, and I went back to my roots. But I had black hair, and I was Susan Stadner. And people like the producers of Ruthless People and Return of the Living Dead Part 2 called me and said, would you be the aerobics instructor in our movie? And I'm like, can I get to keep the set? And you know what? Ruthless People, they actually said, you can keep this set. And I'm like, yeah, but how am I going to fit it in my tiny public access studio? And that show went for 15 years, Shape Up LA, and it got me a lot of other jobs. And so even though it was a pain in the ass, it was really YouTube before the internet.
Of course.
Because YouTube really just was public access on steroids. And so I knew how to do it. And then I built my audience. I have 1 billion minutes watched on my YouTube channel, my comedy wellness channel.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Your parents were Holocaust survivors, and you wrote a whole book about it. Do you think that the PTSD that they suffered from it contributed to them being selfish parents?
Hurt people, indeed. It's a cliche, but it's so damn true. Yeah. My parents, I'd come home from school, Ma, the girls in school don't like me. And she'd say, you think they like me in Poland? No, they killed everybody in your family. Okay, never mind. And that's what I learned to never mind, because my parents always had it worse. How could you argue? They had no frame of reference. They couldn't understand. Why are you crying? Is a Nazi chasing you? And I'm like, no, and so they didn't know what they were doing, but they basically taught me that if I feel bad, it's my own fault, then I better solve it by myself. Even though I didn't really get hurt by myself, they contributed. So I learned to take care of myself. And so when I was 21 years old, my parents bought me a car to bribe me to go back to school. Instead, I got in the car, drove south, made a right at Ohio, and right to LA to be in TV and movies.
Yeah. Did they get to see the pandemic?
No.
That's
no,
good.
And I'm really, I'm glad. Good. I'm glad they're not here now. Yeah. With all the anti-Semitism on the rise, being so darn popular again, and Israel, it's just, there are times in my life where I've said, I'm glad they're not alive. But they did live. My father lived till 94. He was very healthy when he died. He was the only exercise bulimic Holocaust survivor I've ever known. he was so proud that his waistline, he said, was the same as it was by Hitler. And I'm like, oh, okay, Daddy, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. What made you go from Susan to Hanala?
Well, Susan was the name that my parents gave me to be more American, but my mother called me Hanala, and it's Hana, but with the endearment Allah. So her sister, I was really named after my mother's sister who died in a gas chamber, which is one of the reasons I changed my name to Susan. Mm-hmm. But there were a lot of Susans. I remember Louis B. Mayer. For anybody who knows who he was, he said every Tom, Dick, and Harry's named Susan. Yeah. So I'm glad that I took back my Yiddish name, because I was actually able to get Hanala.com. You couldn't get Susan.com.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Is it true that when you were still in high school, you auditioned for the female lead in The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz?
Oh, I suck so bad. I could have had that. I could have been. I am the worst auditioner known to man. It's if I know I have the part, I have the confidence. But if it's kind of like until I have the part, something in my head, maybe the excruciating criticism and the constant vigilance that my mother had her eye on me all the time, just observing me, made me horribly self-conscious. And I just there are very few times that I actually got over myself enough to get the part. Like, for example, Ruthless People and Return of the Living Dead Part 2, I did really well because I played an aerobics instructor, something. I mean, I was teaching so many classes, I'd wake up in the middle of the night going, 4 more. Okay, what? I'm sleeping. Go back to bed. So it was easy for me. And I remember when I went to audition for a show that I really loved called Hung. You should pardon the expression. It was called Hung.
Yeah.
And I loved the show. And so I was getting ready for the audition. I had one line to audition with. And I noticed my hands were shaking in the makeup mirror, and I'm like, I'm trembling. And so I put down the makeup before you stab yourself. And I said, okay, what is it, little girl? And then this like voice inside me gasped, like, what, you're paying attention? I'm like, yes, okay. We won't bulldoze through this. Tell me what it's about, what's going on. And a little voice inside me says, are you going to beat me up if I fuck up at the audition? And I'm like, oh, that's what this is about. She's afraid that I won't do well, and then I will beat her severely, like I have done in every audition since the beginning of me. And so I said to her, okay, look, what if today is about me being loving and good to you rather than going to get that part on that show? And what if I accept and love you no matter what at the end of the audition, no matter how bad you suck? And the little girl inside me goes, yeah, sure. I mean, she has trust issues. True that. You know, I've hit her so many times. And I think that's what a cringe is. It's like you hit your soft parts and you cringe. No, don't beat me again. So it's that self-hate, I think, is a cringe. So we go to the audition, you know. It's like, stop hating me. Aren't they enough that they hate me? Yeah. So I go to the audition, and I walk in, and the casting director has a lovely room, and that never happens. Casting director's lovely room is not a thing. Usually they put them in a godforsaken, lifeless room where you really need to act. You know? Yeah. So I said to the guy as I walked in, like, hey, this is a nice room. And he goes, yeah, really, it is, huh? I think I surprised him being slightly less self-conscious than your average actress. So he, you know, they put everything on video. So he gives me the finger to go, and I say my line, and I kind of flub it a little. There was in the script, there's like a ... which indicates a hesitation in the middle of the line. And normally you're not really supposed to hesitate. It's a thing. So, I mean, if you do, it should be very brief. But I hesitated a while, and he said, hey, let's do that again, but this time don't hesitate as much. And I'm like, oh, I didn't mean to, but I forgot the second part of the line. And he laughed. And so I did it again. And this time I remembered the second part of the line. And then he says, that was great. And they always say, that's great. You could have fallen off the chair, and they'd still say, that's great. Yeah. So and also there were about 24 women who looked just like me in the waiting room outside the audition door, right? So I'm like, okay, you know, and that's only at the moment I'm there. Who knows how many people are auditioning for this HBO show. So I'm going down the hallway, and here's the crucial moment. I have an opportunity to either beat the shit out of her for forgetting the second half of the line. How could you? You know all the lyrics to the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, and this you miss? One line? No, I didn't go there. Instead, I said, hey, you know what? Maybe it was good enough. What? I stopped dead in my tracks. What do you mean good enough? No. A is a passing grade around here, okay? You know? So I'm like, okay, that was interesting. I kept my promise to the little girl. I ended up feeling like kind of happy. You know, I got goosebumps and all that. I get home, my agent calls. I had the part. I got the part. All they had to do was like wait for HBO to approve me, which they said would probably be fine. I got the part. I went and I filmed it. It was amazing. And see? Yes, see?
Wow. And you probably dodged the bullet, though, with Duddy Kravitz, because I heard Richard Dreyfuss and Ted Kotcheff are complicated individuals.
Hey, don't knock him. I saw him at my first AA meeting, Richard Dreyfuss.
Oh, yeah. He's a brilliant actor, don't get me wrong. I think he's fantastic.
Oh, but I'm sure. No, difficult, yeah. But still, you know, but I do remember him. I ended up being an extra in the apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz. You know, I'm kind of glad I didn't get that, because can you imagine I have to be saying that title for the past, 50 years?
Well, it's funny. I don't think Richard Dreyfuss has to, because he's done so many other great movies besides it, you know?
Yes, yes.
So after high school, did you go to college?
Yeah, I studied theater. I came very close to playing Lucy Brown in Three Penny Opera, but I had the part until this one girl came in and auditioned me out of the part, and I ended up understudying her. And one night she got sick. Yay!
Yeah.
So I get all dressed up. She was 3 feet taller than me. So I hike up my dress and stick it in my pantyhose. I'm about to go on stage. It's like 2 minutes before curtain. The bitch shows up and talks her way through instead of sings. And I never did get to play Lucy Brown. But yes, it was always about theater. But then I got in what happened was, in Montreal, I auditioned for a game show. And there were about 700 people in the room, it seemed like. Everybody wanted to do this game show for some reason. And it starred Alan Thicke. No one knew who Alan Thicke was. I remember the woman who was running the auditions said, he's this hot-looking producer. He lives in Hollywood, but he's from Hull, So, which is up in Canada. And I thought, well, I'll get the show, I'll get into a relationship with this man, and he will invite me to Hollywood, and that's how I will get there. And funny how that's exactly what ended up happening. That's how I got to Hollywood. And I was supposed to do his show called Fernwood Tonight, but I created a character for the show called, he named her Susan Cloud after my American name, Susan. And he had someone else play her by the time I got here. But I created that character when Norman Lear, who, the creator of All in the Family and other great shows, when he put Alan in charge of Fernwood Tonight, making him the head producer, Alan told me when he came up to Montreal, because we're seeing each other regularly up there. And I created this character and told him I wanted to be on the show. And he said, come on down, you can play her. So I got in my car, came down, and someone else was playing her.
Wow. You don't hear those stories anymore, I'll tell you. That was at a time when there was no internet. Everybody knew each other. Everything was more contained. It was a smaller world back then, for sure.
Yeah.
But did you get to work on Fernwood Tonight at all?
Well, I sat in a couple of writing sessions, but I didn't go very well. There were the issues, as we say. One of them was that I had to get sober, and I did right after that.
Oh, okay.
I got very drunk on the set of Fernwood Tonight. Alan actually said to me, you'll never work in this town. Use that cliche. Yeah. And I'm like, I won't? Well, I better go get drunker. I was 21. I was 21. What did I know? I wasn't thinking too well. I had way too much alcohol in me to be thinking clearly.
Yeah. I saw you were on this show called the $1.98 Beauty Show, and two other guests of mine were in that episode, Annie Lockhart and Lou Mulford.
Huh. Yeah. Well, there you go.
Do you remember?
I had no idea.
You'll remember that?
I don't. I barely remember doing the show. I remember walking around in the bathing suit, but you always remember the traumatic parts of your life.
Yeah.
Oh, gee.
Let's
But lately I entered another beauty contest kind of thing, pageant.
Oh, yeah?
I believe they're called pageants now. Yeah, it was the Miss Senior California, and I got first runner up. That was like right after the pandemic. I think that was 2021. Yeah, first runner up.
That is
Or
awesome.
22, I don't remember. Yeah, and the reason I didn't win was because they do this thing called they vote for height.
Mhm.
The woman who went last in the talent division, she was 6'2" and wore heels and this gorgeous black dress and played a violin. I didn't have a chance. She blew everybody away. But I really believe I was robbed. Not that it was rigged, just that I was robbed.
Well, get it next time.
Yeah, right.
Let's talk about movies. You were a modeling instructor in one of Kim Basinger's first films, Katie, Portrait of a Centerfold. Anything stand out about that?
Again, you asked me, I'll just tell you the silliest thing. The Kim Basinger, and it's pronounced Basinger, in case anybody that says Basinger, no, it's Basinger. And why I'm going on about this, I don't know. Probably because people call me Hanala. But she had a peeling nose. And the makeup artist was scolding her for being in the sun and telling her sister, keep your sister out of the sun. Make sure, because she has this cute little nose and it gets burned. And also, I remember the scene where, if anybody sees it, the model sees herself in a lot of different mirrors from all these different angles that are, like she's encircled in mirrors. And we really did have that at the modeling studio. I actually taught modeling there. That's how I got that part. Mm-hmm. I'm too short to be a model, but I can really do a runway well. So I remember her just turning slowly, looking at herself and acting and being so into it, thinking, oh yeah, I can see why she got the part. She's real.
Yeah. And Gus, oh no, that's the next one, I'm sorry. Fabian and Don Johnson were in it as well. Do you remember anything about them?
Don Johnson was in there?
Yeah.
You're kidding, because I kissed him in
Elvis,
that movie.
Elvis and the Beauty Queen.
The Elvis movie. Elvis and the Beauty Queen. Thank you for reminding me of my life. It's been a long time. Okay. Yes. When I was in that movie, I was an extra, and I was brand new to LA. It could have been even my first movie. And Don Johnson was playing Elvis. He was on stage doing a performance. And we were told to, rush the stage and grab him, kiss him, whatever. Or maybe I just heard that in my mind. But I did grab him and I kissed him and I did not let go. And he kisses better than he talks. Kind of nasal. Yeah. But he kissed great,
Yeah, he's got that nasally voice.
Nasal Elvis.
Gus Trinkenoise, who had been in West Side Story, directed that. Did he give you any advice, any feedback on anything?
No. I don't remember it, but no.
How do you get cast in Michael Jackson's Thriller?
Oh, well, I wasn't in the Thriller video. What Michael did was he wanted to see dancers moving and he wanted to try moves out. And so he had people come in, and then he chose about 12 of us after we did some moves, and then we all danced with him. And those moves became Thriller. And I was asked to come back, but it was so far away. I think it was like Santa Clarita or something, which is, had I known it was going to be Thriller, of course, I would have driven to New York from LA, but who knew? So I actually turned it down and didn't go for the second day, which could have, where they got more into it. But I do remember that I had no idea what Michael Jackson looked like. The last I saw him, he was a little boy, and we all know what he looked like as a little boy. So when this person came up to us and was talking to us in a very beautiful, lovely, and feminine way, in a flowy kind of outfit, I just assumed it was a woman, and it turned out to be Michael Jackson that I was talking to, and then I realized, what he looks like now. Yeah. But it was quite a shock.
Yeah, I mean, you could have been a zombie, and I think you would have made a real sexy zombie in that video.
Aw, thank you. Yeah, I must have missed out. I don't know why I was. Well, it was so early on. I was just getting to know what was going on in LA, sobriety, all that stuff. It was just an interesting a time in my life where I was just fighting to survive.
But that video holds up, though. I mean, you had Michael Peters choreographing it, John Landis directing. Mick Garris and his wife Cynthia were some of the zombies in it. I mean, it's a video that has a lot of talent.
Yes.
I mean, incredible. Every year when I was a kid, it would play all month long on MTV, especially on Halloween night. It's
right. And as someone who now I wrote and I say wrote rather than co-wrote, because if you saw what I wrote, you'd see I wrote it. Elvis and Nixon. The Elvis and is the ampersand Nixon. Right. I like to really get into my work, and so I did a lot of research and a lot of work on that movie, and a lot of people did a lot of work on the movie. And then the story about Kevin Spacey broke as my movie was just going into theaters.
Yeah.
So people stayed away because, mostly I think because it was Kevin Spacey. It broke so close to the premiere and all that. And so what I'm saying is, whether it's Elvis and Nixon or Thriller, sometimes the artists, you may not want to support them, but there are a lot of people who worked on those productions. Like you just said, There's so many people who count on people seeing them. And yes, sometimes the star can be a real sicko, and sometimes you feel guilty, like do you watch Woody Allen? Well, yes, I do, because a lot of other people worked on that,
Yeah.
So it's up to you. I think it's a very individual thing, who you boycott, who you cancel.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a huge Spacey fan, but all the other guys, yeah. I mean, I have my opinions and my doubts, just like anybody, but I try not to focus on it much. My parents took me to see Ruthless People when I was 3, and I've always loved it. Like, I remember when you're the aerobics instructor, and you're like, "Come on, get those pepperoni thighs up there, and don't forget to breathe."
Yeah, I actually wrote those lines.
Yeah.
That was something I used to say in class all the time. So they said just make up stuff, and so I did. The one, don't forget to breathe, that was actually in the script, because then it cut to Bette Midler panting. Yeah. So that was the one line that I had to absolutely say a few times.
Yeah, that movie is so great. It was a big departure for the Zucker brothers, because they had done Airplane and Naked Gun, all the slapsticky kind of comedies, and this was more broader, much more farce-like,
Right, an actual story. I really absolutely loved Airplane. So when I went in for my audition, that's what I said about every once in a while I do well in an audition.
Oh, you auditioned for Airplane?
For Ruthless People.
Oh, okay.
When I went in there, because what happened was my agent told me, you're going to be auditioning for the 3 producers of Airplane.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Okay, I've seen it 700 times. Let's go. So when I walked in, the three of them were sitting at the table, and I just did their whole movie in front of them. The double sunglasses, the pterodactyl. I mean, I just did like a quick monologue of their whole movie. And again, by the time I got home, my agent said, "You've got the part."
Yeah. That's so awesome. How did you wind up in Return of the Living Dead 2 as an aerobics instructor?
They saw my show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's actually what happened with Ruthless People too. They'd seen my show, so I went in, I had that confidence because they asked for me specifically. But one time, my agent called me and said in the breakdowns, which is what the casting people get, it announces all the jobs in town for actors and actresses. It's also breakdowns, me in the car on the way home from the sucky audition. So my agent called and said, I just read the breakdowns and they're looking for a Susan Stadner type from the Susan Stadner show, me. They're looking for me. He said, can you make the audition? I'm like, yeah. So I had all the confidence in the world. I didn't get it.
Oh. Yeah.
I didn't get the part.
Yeah, they probably figured Jane Fonda's workout is too expensive, so Susan Stadner is the next best thing.
I don't know what happened. So somebody else somebody else was better at playing me than I was that day.
Do you have a good story about Mel Brooks on Robin Hood Men in Tights?
Well, it's interesting because I saw Cary Elwes working as I was an extra, and then I ended up working with him on Elvis and Nixon and totally forgot about it. And when we were working together, I never mentioned, hey, you know what? We worked together on Men in Tights. So Cary was going to direct Elvis and Nixon, but that didn't work out. So he just came on board and he wrote a few scenes that were in the movie, and that's how he got writer's credit.
Yeah, I love that movie. My actually great uncle was the cameraman, Michael O'Shea.
Really?
Yeah. He died in a helicopter crash a couple years later, sadly.
Oh, whoa, that is awful.
It is very awful, yeah. And I didn't even get to meet him, too. We had planned on going to L.A. and visiting him, but it never came to be, sadly.
Yeah. Mm.
What was this thing you wrote, Confessions and Fantasies?
Oh, well, actually, I was just hired by Playboy Video. They wanted me to create the Workout for Lovers for video home sales. And I did that. And then after, they asked me if I would help to write and do the voiceover for a show called Confessions and Fantasies. And I'm like, sure, as long as I can keep my clothes on and you pay me, I'm there.
Wow. So what was it like? Were you just talking to the camera in clothes, or?
Well, the Confessions and Fantasies, yeah. I was behind a screen. You saw my silhouette, and I was listening to, as you can imagine, Confessions and Fantasies. And then, but the real fun part was when I did the choreography and I wrote the Workout for Lovers, because I would show up and I would make naked people work out. And no jumping jacks, as you can imagine. Yeah. But there were, but it was the Workout for Lovers. It's what two people can do at home. And they were naked. Yeah. And I imagine most people don't look that good naked at home. But, models.
Yeah.
So it was like playing with life-size Barbies that could bend their knees and arms.
Yeah. What about Traumedy Central?
Yeah, that was my brand for a while, Traumedy Central. But now I've upgraded to Comedy Wellness because of Traumedy. Well, that's the book I wrote, and the movie now that is the adaptation of my book is called Trauma Land, and it's how I survived it all.
Yeah. Oh. So I don't know if you noticed, I've had Joey on, and I think we talked about Elvis and Nixon, which you mentioned a little while ago. So what was the whole genesis behind that?
Well, it was based on that handshake photo.
Yeah.
In the Oval Office, Nixon and Elvis shaking hands. Like, what's the story behind that? So I started to study it. I got every book on Elvis, and I watched. At that point, I had to get DVDs. Like, what the hell? From the National Archives. Now, of course, everything's available online. But I did some research, and then because I wanted to write this movie, I knew someone who was interested in the subject matter and who got movies made. And he said if I could come up with a script, that he would consider producing it. And his name was Cassian Elwes, who happens to be Cary Elwes' brother, which is how Cary got involved in the thing in the first place. So I read Priscilla Presley's book, and that gave me the idea, the motivation for why Elvis would do that. And so and then I had to think, well, I don't really want to write a movie about a guy who is famous for dying on the toilet. So what do I do? And because I wanted this to be a comedy with a happy ending. And he did not have a happy ending.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I came up with a brilliant idea. When in watching the DVDs about what really happened on the trip, a man named Jerry Schilling, who is Elvis's best friend, was describing the whole event, the motivation, the meeting with Nixon, everything. I thought, I'm going to do the movie about him. Yeah. So the movie became about Jerry, and it was a buddy flick where it was really about Jerry getting involved in Elvis's life and then Jerry finding his own life. And I thought, now that I can write. So that's what became Elvis and Nixon. I sent it off to Cassian, and then a mere 5 years later, it got made.
Yeah, I think there was like a TV movie of Elvis and Nixon in the 90s, right?
Yes. Oh, God, I saw like 2 minutes of it, and
it was bad.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, bad. Very bad.
Have you seen the new Elvis movie?
For the 2 minutes I saw. I loved it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yay.
I loved it. I loved the visuals, the acting, the music. I just thought they were a little too sweet on the Colonel, because I've heard across the board.
Oh, yes. Oh, hell yes. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand that part. Yeah, I'm just determined to, I just got off the phone like for 2 hours with customer service, so I'm determined to be pleasant right now and think about good things.
Yeah.
So not letting anything bother me right now because let me tell you, the Colonel bothered me.
It did, but I think Hanks should have gotten an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. I don't know why he didn't.
Hey, listen, I don't know. I don't know. I have seen the most brilliant comedic performances that are 10 times better than the dramatic performance by an actor or actress in the same year, because one was drama and one was comedy, where comedy is so much harder than drama.
Yeah, exactly. People don't realize that. It's easy to say the joke, but if it's going to get a laugh or not, that's all up to the person,
It's Charles Lawton is one of the people attributed to the when he was dying. They said his dying hard. He said dying is easy. Comedy is hard.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a classic saying. Classic. It's
right.
True.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, and why do we not have the Academy Awards going to brilliant comedic performances?
I have no idea. Maybe someday it'll change. It seems like there's a lot of changes being made with the Academy, so we'll see.
Right? Good point.
Congrats on 40 years of sobriety. So, what was the moment that made you want to get sober, and how have you maintained it all these years?
Well, okay, mere almost 41 years ago. Mm-hmm. I was at a Christmas party, and I went to the party appropriately quaaluded out, and when I got there, I was still pretty much vertical and somewhat coherent, and I was looking for something to drink, and there was like nothing. I couldn't understand, so I went to the kitchen and I found a bottle of unopened vodka. So I opened it, figuring I was helping them, helping them out, being a good guest. And that's the last thing I remember until I came out of a blackout. I was fanning my dress in front of an open oven. It was soaking wet. I had no idea why. And the people behind me were in a discussion. The woman was saying something about that she was on this TV show. And I turned around and went, "Oh, no, you're not on that show. I watched that show. I don't know. I'm an actress and I should know. You're not on that show." And then I went back to fanning my dress and slipped back into a blackout. And then the next thing I remember at the party, I woke up. I had knocked over the Christmas tree. And the reason I know I knocked it over is because I was the only one in the tree. And I'm sitting there with the crushed ornaments. I'm putting together this broken plastic baby Jesus thing. And I realized, oh my God, I don't have underwear on. So I smoothed down my dress a little. I look up. Everyone in the room's looking at me. It's like I think the music actually stopped.
Yeah.
And then I went back into my blackout. Well, the next morning, the man I was living with, my husband, he said, those are my clients. So you really embarrassed me. I'm leaving. And he's like packing up all this stuff. And I'm like, "Don't leave. I'll go to an AA meeting. I swear, I'll stop drinking." And so I went to my first AA meeting. I thought, well, I'll just go once. And I'll, because there's no way I can stop drinking, but I'll tell him that I'm going, and he'll stay. And I really didn't have a long-term plan. I just go to one meeting and he'll stay was my thing. And so, because at that point I was really agoraphobic, I didn't leave the house much without him at all. I was too traumatized by my childhood, just stayed home a lot. So I really needed him. He was my connection to the world. And so I went to this meeting with all these people. That's where, of course, I saw Richard Dreyfuss, my first AA meeting. He was reading a newspaper through the whole meeting. I thought, wow, really? I was so judgmental of me, a little drunk. I was still hungover. And so something happened at that meeting, though. Instead of just staying once, I thought, I'd go once, and then I'd come home and I would tell him stuff. Like my mother stretched a 5-year war into a 50-year story. I can do this. I can do this. And so, but what happened at the meeting is all my thoughts, my pain, my self-disgust was coming out of the mouths of other people. And I'm like, "You too? You feel like shit too?
Yeah.
Wow. But you look so good." And so I just couldn't wait to get to my next meeting. They had this rule. You had to, in order to share, you had to have 24 hours of sobriety. I'm like, well, that's going to kill me. Okay. I'll just get through the night. And then I'll go to this one meeting, I'll share, then I'll go home and drink and die. Okay, that's the plan. Good plan. Okay, so I get through the night. I don't know how. It was like real nail biting. And the next day I go to the meeting and I put up my hand because now I can legally share with my 24 hours of sobriety. And I'm like, I don't know how you guys do it. You just took a cake for a year of sobriety? I can't even get through a night. How do you do it? This old biddy, who's probably younger than I am now, turned around and she goes, "Oh, honey, we do it one day at a time." I'm like, yeah, the sitcom, I know. And I, wait a minute, one day at a time? Like, don't think about tomorrow? Don't think about, like, one day how am I going to stay sober? One day if I have a child and she gets married, I'm going to have to drink on the wedding day, right? I mean, I'm like, how do you pick? They're laughing at me. They're just keep coming back and keep coming back. And so I did. And here we are 40 years later, almost 41, and no alcohol.
Amazing. I've been sober 8 years since my car accident, and it's been quite a journey. And yeah, I mean, a couple of years ago, I gave up smoking marijuana because my lungs were compromised in the accident. And as I get older, it's just not as good anymore,
Oh. Well, when the pandemic hit and I heard about this thing called Zoom, I got a few friends together who were part of another group that fell apart, and I started a Zoom room called GRASS, Green Recovery and Sobriety Support, for people who do use cannabis in their recovery. And now it's like it's going to be 4 years, and we have meetings like 5 times a day, 7 days a week, and holidays are marathons like Halloween, and I'm going to be performing. So it's interesting. For me, it works because it helped with my insomnia and anxiety, because for 25 years I didn't do cannabis and just did sobriety, and I was pretty miserable. I was a lot of pain, a lot of staring at the ceiling till 4 a.m. And then a doctor suggested I try weed, and I'm like, oh no, switching cabins on the Titanic. No, we don't do that. But I thought about it. I thought, well, if I just did cannabis, because I've always enjoyed just that, like until the Quaalude or the booze took me over the edge. I wonder. So I tried it at 25 years, and it's really working for me. And luckily, my lungs are good. But of course, I have health concerns. I'm always watching everything, trying to use best practices and be as healthy as I can in my weed use.
Yeah. I mean, I had many good years of it. Maybe I'll go back to it, and just do it like every now and then. But I can't do it a lot like I used to.
Mm-hmm.
What is boat karaoke?
Oh, well, I live in Marina Del Rey, which is amazing. And so my idea was to get people on a boat and lead them through songs and have like professionals on there promoting their work. And then the pandemic hit. But lately, my thing is unbelievably, here I am, a senior citizen, and I have started singing in a band and playing percussion. You should see me with a tambourine and a shaker. Oh, baby. So I'm singing with an amazing band. They're very popular. They've been around LA for a long time. They're called Uncle Monkey, and Uncle is with a K, UNKLE, like monkey with a K. Uncle Monkey, and the band leader, he sings like you wouldn't believe, plays harmonica and guitar all at the same time. I think he inhales as he's playing harmonica and then sings. I don't know how he does it. I think he inhales through his ears, but it's the most fun. I have all these outfits, and all my life I pretended I was like a backup singer or on stage entertaining with a mic in my hand. And then when I taught aerobics, that's how I did it. So it's natural for me, and I'm having the time of my life. And we're entertaining at yacht clubs and bars. I'm in bars. Hello, sober in bars. I'm watching people drink, which, it doesn't tempt me. It just makes me grateful.
I've been singing karaoke for years. I love karaoke so much.
Nice.
I should invest in a karaoke machine because I haven't gone out to the bar.
Well, what are some of your favorite songs to do karaoke to?
Anything from the Beatles, the Bangles, Talking Heads. Something simple like that, pop stuff, new wave of the 80s. Like I used to sing A Flock of Seagulls I Ran, like the original guy, Mike Score. I'd do the English accent and everything.
Wow. Well, I love it. Music therapy. That, to me, I just posted on Facebook. We're going to do music live on Halloween night because, what was going on with the world. Yeah. It's just too much. And then technology, like I said, I was just on the phone with customer service. I had to breathe through it. You would have thought I was like I was in labor, giving birth or something. It was so difficult. I was so stressed out because in my head I was doing the shoulds. I shouldn't have to do this. This is wrong that this happened. Why should I have to fix it? This wasn't my fault. Yeah. But it's like, just breathe and realize this is the price you pay for being alive. You have to deal with things like customer service. When you do a lot can go wrong. So try not to focus on the negatives and realize you do a lot right. There's a lot that goes right. Focus on the wins.
Are you writing anything new that's coming up?
Well, Traumaland, I'm very excited because we have a director, Don Most, and he was on Happy Days.
Yeah,
Donnie Most.
Ralph
He
Malph.
played Ralph.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's a nice Jewish boy. He really gets the script and loves it. And we've been working on it a little bit together. And are you getting feedback, or is it just me?
That's just you.
Oh, good. Thank goodness. Okay, because I heard me twice, and no one wants that. So we're having a great time, and right now it's at several different studios. We recently sent it out, and it's the adaptation of my book. My book was put out in 2006. It dealt with my recovery and what my parents went through. It was called "My Parents Went Through the Holocaust," and all I got was this lousy T-shirt, which was an expression back then, and it describes the syndrome, what the children go through.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't even realize that Donnie Most was Jewish. I thought maybe he was like an Irish Catholic or something.
A lot of people think that because of the red hair. Yeah. No, he's wonderful. Actually, he's one of the finest human beings I've ever known, and I love working with him. I love talking to him. He's warm. He's funny. He's smart. He cares. Just a fine individual.
That's awesome.
And he has a great singing voice too. He just put out a new album.
I hope he could sing better than Potsy.
Potsy's not bad. I actually saw Ralph and Potsy perform at the Catalina Jazz Club in Hollywood. They are pretty good. Potsy's, I don't know. He sounded good to me.
I've met Potsy. He's a sweet guy, really sweet guy. I met him at a Comic-Con a couple of years ago. So
yeah, I'd like to go to. People have invited me. The Return of the Living Dead.
Oh yeah,
I'd love to show up in that outfit. I think I still have it.
You should. You should. Yeah, I
Right?
I know a bunch of them. From actually all three movies. Yeah, I've interviewed people from all three movies. Yeah, you should do the cons. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, perhaps I will. That sounds like something I should do and want to do.
So, real quick, we got to play my secret silly game. This is a series of silly slumber party questions. No win or lose, it's just pure fun. And how the game works is, I ask you the question, you answer it, and then you ask me that exact same question, and I answer it. And feel free to comment on the answers, because they might be funny.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm putting on my thinking cap, because right now, it's nap time. But here we go.
Hanala, are you ticklish?
Yes, get away from me. Are you? Okay, Tommy, are you ticklish?
Oh yeah, if you tickle me without warning, I might hit you in the groin.
Oh, well, I have the same answer. Yours is better. Okay, I'm going with yours.
Is your belly button an innie or an outie?
I have a belly button? Yes, it's an innie, and it's surrounded by muscles. Do you have an innie or an outie?
I have a deep innie. It's surrounded by lots of fat, and I wish I had a six-pack like you.
I think I have an 8-pack, actually.
Okay, even better.
Don't dismiss 2 of the packs you haven't seen.
What color are your toenails painted?
They are a lovely buff pink. What color are your toenails painted?
Right now, they're not painted, but last time they were lavender purple.
Very close to mine. Interesting.
Yes.
All right.
What would you say is your best personality trait?
My best personality trait is my good nature. That I'm a pleasant person, determined to have fun. So that my pleasant nature. And what do you think? How did you put it? What is your, what?
What is my best personality trait?
best personality trait. Okay, because I didn't know if it was favorite. Hey, Tommy, what is your best personality trait?
I have empathy and I have no filter.
Ah, nice. Okay. I love your answers.
I'm a Gemini, yes.
I'm an Aries, so follow me, boys.
If you could have anything named after you, what would it be?
Broccoli.
Hanala Broccoli. That does actually sound pretty good. I love broccoli.
See? Okay, if you could have anything named after you, what would it be?
A vibrator.
Nice. A beloved object.
Yes, the Tommy Chatsy.
Well, all right.
And then my favorite question, is there a stinky smell that just makes you gag?
This is real? You really want it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard everything, so you can't shock me.
Well, no, it's not shocking. I hate to be so average as to say this, but if you want truth, I got no funny answer for this other than, well, sticky feet.
Oh yeah, I mean that's one for me too. Stinky feet.
Okay, then I don't have to ask you. Okay.
Yeah.
Or
it's either stinky feet or farts. You know.
Well, yeah. I'm the stinky feet. They get to me more.
They have to be clean at all times with me, always.
Or at least socks with your shoes if you're gonna be stinky.
Exactly. I have a joke for you.
Oh, okay.
What do you call a boy that doesn't masturbate?
A liar?
Exactly.
What? Oh my God, I guessed it. Well, I think I used to be a boy in a former life.
Yeah, it's a boy joke, A lot of women who grew up with brothers, they especially know it.
I unfortunately only had one bigger sister, no brothers, and but next time.
You strike me as a tomboy for sure.
Yeah. I like to go between Marianne and Ginger. I go back and forth.
Yeah. Hanala, you are so wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on tonight and having this great conversation.
My pleasure.
Yes, and you keep on doing what you do, bringing joy to people. You're so hilarious, and being healthy and helping people be healthy, and have a great holiday season and be safe out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And if you want to follow me, remember Hanala.com.
Hanala.com, absolutely.
Hanala.com, Hanala. Yay. All right, Tommy, have a good one. Stay safe and happy Halloween next Tuesday, a week from tonight.
Happy Halloween. Okay, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Hanala Segal, ain't she a sweetheart? Oh, what a great lady, huh? I love my Canadians. That was a fun conversation. She was a lot more funnier than I expected her to be. Just so witty, so quick. I really enjoyed talking today. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes!